I'm shocked because I liked you, Nick, and to find out now you're a right-wing extremist is shocking.
The social norms now are on our side because we're completely free and valid to talk about immigration, the problems it brings.
Yeah. I found something out last week, Nick, about you, which is that...
I'm a woman.
Well, I didn't like to mention that for the gentle listeners. If you often speak about grooming gangs, don't you? And you, I would say you use that as a grievance narrative around the Muslims and what you believe that they are doing. Is that correct?
Not
a grievance narrative, but you certainly speak openly about it, how it's been terrible and it's an Islamic problem and blah blah, Muslim problem and all that sort of stuff.
Part of it is, I've spent 20 years dealing with child sex exploitation. I've had paedophiles arrested, I've had them prosecuted. When I worked with my charity, we saved at least 15 girls being raped and abused, all individual cases. The Muslim community, the Pakistani Muslim community has an issue with this. But it isn't by any means purely a Pakistani Muslim issue. There's lots of white paedophiles out there. People of all races abuse children. But when it comes to grooming gangs, that specific crime of sharing the abuse with your uncle and your cousin and your dad and passing it around, that is a predominantly Muslim heritage.
Correct. And you often talk about it, and I think you mentioned that it's not... It's not hundreds, this is thousands, you've said.
I reckon you're probably getting close to 100,000 white girls have been abused in this country and raped over the last 50 years.
By Islamic or Muslim grooming gangs?
By Muslim grooming gangs, yeah.
So you're therefore officially a right-wing extremist, did you know that?
Well, I already knew that. I've got
because
the certificate.
The Home Office has a report out now that they use to train their people. And they say anybody who talks about grooming gangs and the problem they are, it's basically a grievance narrative used by right-wing extremists. So I'm shocked that I'm actually associating with you.
Well, if you're on Wikipedia and Google grooming gangs on Wikipedia, it says there that the grooming gang problem in the UK is a far right talking point.
Yes.
So it's on Wikipedia.
I'm shocked because I liked you, Nick, and to find out now you're a right-wing extremist is shocking. But also, there's another point here. This is, again, the Home Office. Do you believe that Western culture is under threat from mass migration?
Absolutely.
That apparently is also an extreme right-wing view, Nick. I'm disappointed.
I'm sure it is. I mean, you just look at what our government's been doing, then... most of my views, according to them, will be classed as racist, Islamophobic, xenophobic, because I think they're taking us down the wrong path.
Yeah. But it is staggering to me that if there's somebody in the Home Office is watching this podcast now, they will regard you as a right-wing extremist. They will regard you as having extreme right-wing views.
Well, and they did exactly the same to the political prisoners.
Yes.
So this is just a narrative they've had for decades and decades.
But it's not even they're hiding in plain sight. They're not even hiding in plain sight now, are they? They are hiding in plain sight. They're actually stating these things in their own documentation now. That the things you and I talk about are extreme right-wing views. But you and I know we are not extreme right-wing people, are we?
Well, it all depends who's judging us. To many people on the far left, we are far right extreme compared to their belief. So it all depends where you're sitting when you're judging people. So from the far left, we do come across as far right because we're the opposite of everything they want. And the fact the government and the Home Office is coming out with this crap even more and more and more, I take as a good sign, because they now know that the underhand way of classing people as racist far right doesn't work anymore now. So they've lost that power. They're now having to rely on, we've got to come out and say it, because suggesting it isn't enough anymore. We've now got to state it, because they're losing the narrative, and the fact they've state it now proves to me they're losing the argument.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because
It was kind of behind closed doors before, wasn't it?
It was behind closed doors.
Oh, I don't know if you say that. You are officially a right-wing extremist.
And society itself, communities themselves would police that language and those views. So you wouldn't want to be perceived as being racist because your family and friends would go, oh, that's just too much, that. And that's what would keep people in check. And they're called social norms. But the social norms now are on our side because we're completely free and valid to talk about immigration, the problems it brings, and the people nobody we know now thinks we're racist and far right.
No.
But the government now is having to resort to calling us names because they are now not on the side of the social norms. Yeah. They're now far left extremists.
That's a great point, that is. Yeah, it's interesting on that WhatsApp group I was talking about, the conversation moved on today. By the way, I haven't spent the whole day just going on that WhatsApp. I have been doing work as well.
Are you sure? You're not joining the 10 million unemployed, are you? So you can stay on WhatsApp?